Have you ever woken up, padded barefoot to the kitchen, poured water into a glass, and, before the liquid even settled, felt an almost guilty rush of pleasure because you were caring for yourself first? Then, just as quickly, the old script barged in. Deadlines, bills, errands, the soft hiss that says self-care is a luxury ticket you haven't earned. If that inner reprimand sounds familiar, keep listening. Today we're going to trace what actually happens, biochemically, philosophically, and soul-deep, when you decide to look after you before the inbox, the children, the infinite scroll. The answer isn't scented candles. It's a tectonic shift in how reality responds to a better-kept you. You may think self-care is the modern cousin of self-indulgence, a spa voucher wrapped in Instagram quotes. But a 2024 meta-analysis from King's College London begs to differ. People who performed a single intentional self-care act daily, tiny things like stepping outside before work, showed a 23% drop in inflammatory markers within 6 weeks. Less inflammation means clearer skin, calmer gut, and a hippocampus free to store memories instead of cortisol. Watts would nod. He warned that humans are muddy water rushing in circles, and that clarity appears only when we pause long enough for silt to settle. When you care for your vessel, mud sinks, vision returns. Let's make this personal. Picture the first 10 minutes after waking tomorrow. Phone is on the bedside table, blinking notifications like a needy strobe light. Instead of diving into that river, you rise, roll your shoulders, sip water, watch morning light slip through the blinds. 30 seconds, maybe 40. In that micro shift, your vagus nerve, body's peace conductor, fires parasympathetic signals, slowing heart rate. You've just told every cell, we are not being chased. Blood diverts from survival muscles to digestion, immunity, creativity. That single choice cascades outward all day. Yet we rarely map the dominoes. To understand the deeper why, we need a philosopher to hold the flashlight. Enter Alan Watts, who said, "You are a function of what the whole universe is doing in the same way that a wave is a function of what the whole ocean is doing." Translation: looking after yourself isn't narcissistic. It's tuning the local notes so the entire symphony stays in key. When the wave crests clean, the sea moves smoother. Watts's wave metaphor becomes our leitmotif. Each time you breathe kindly toward yourself, the shoreline changes shape, but tension must rise before release. Modern capitalism sells the opposite lesson: hustle first, recover later. A Deloitte survey of 1.2 million professionals in 2023 found 68% fear being labeled uncommitted if they take breaks. That fear is not abstract, it's neurochemical. The dorsal anterior cingulate, brain's social radar, lights up under the threat of exclusion the same way it does under physical pain. So skipping lunch isn't just bad for insulin, it flags tribal exile to your ancient circuitry. No wonder the coffee and keyboard tango feels compulsory. Story time. In Detroit, a 28-year-old paramedic named Jordan worked double shifts during the pandemic. Heart palpitations became nightly visitors. Still, he declined PTO, convinced people would die without him. One morning, he fainted in the ambulance bay. Diagnosis: adrenal fatigue. Recovery demanded a month off, something he viewed as surrender. On day 4 of leave, he took a slow walk, no podcast, just footfall. He noticed forsythia blooming through chain-link fence near the river. First color he'd clocked in months. Later he journaled, "The city was always yellow, I was just gray." 3 years on, Jordan still clocks overtime, but he draws a hard line. Sunrise walk, 10 mindful breaths before siren duty. ER doctors report his reaction time improved, not declined. The wave crests clean, the shoreline benefits. You too might fear that self-care will shrink ambition. The Stoic Seneca cuts in. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. He advised daily premeditatio, rehearsing catastrophe so actual events feel lighter. Counterintuitively, scheduling restorative rituals is a Stoic act. you fortify fortress walls before siege. Neuroscientists agree. A Stanford study found that participants who practiced 20 minutes of yoga or slow breathing daily scored higher on working memory tests than those who spent the same time cramming information. Rest is an accelerant, not a break. But self-care isn't always a warm bath. Sometimes it's cold steel boundaries. Consider the Japanese concept of ma, the intentional gap between notes in music, space that lets sound breathe. Western work culture fears ma. Silence feels like wasted potential. If this content is making sense to you, click the subscribe button and subscribe to the channel. Thank you for your support. Yet when you refuse after-hours emails, you carve ma into your timeline. Harvard Business Review reports teams with set communication windows outperform 24/7 Slack teams on creativity metrics by 14%. Why? Psychological detachment resets dopamine receptors, so when you return, novelty registers again. Let's loop back to the wave. Imagine dropping stones of attention into your own pond. Hydration, movement, gratitude, and watching ripples reach surprising shores. Patience with your partner, humor in traffic, sudden idea during a meeting. Psychologists call this upward spiral effect. Each positive act multiplies likelihood of the next. It's compound interest for mood. Fail to drop stones, and inertia compounds the opposite. The critic within might retort, "Nice theory, but my life is heavier." Fair point. Trauma can anchor waves. Here, Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron offers a window. We think that the point is to pass the test or overcome the problem. But the truth is that things don't really get solved. They come together and they fall apart. Self-care becomes less about permanent calm and more about building a raft sturdy enough for each falling apart. Therapy, medication, community, these too are forms of caring for you, not luxury add-ons. A quick biochemical detour. The body's master clock, the suprachiasmatic nucleus, relies on morning light to calibrate. Miss that cue and melatonin drips all day, leaving you foggy. When you step outside within an hour of waking, even for a minute, photoreceptors tell the SCN, reset. Andrew Huberman warns that blinds down mornings mimic jet lag. So a single balcony stretch is both cosmic alignment and cognitive upgrade. Watts's universe humming through your optic nerve. Tension again. Society weaponizes guilt. Social feeds preach self-care, but applaud only unwavering productivity. That cognitive dissonance fries the same brain region responsible for empathy. Neuroscientist Tanya Singer found empathy and burnout run inverse. As exhaustion rises, the capacity to attune plunges. Look at workplace snappiness, road rage, political vitriol, all symptoms of collective REM debt. Taking care of yourself is stealth activism, softening the social tone. Another story, shorter yet potent. In Galway, Ireland, an 82-year-old widow named Bridget began ocean dipping every dawn after losing her husband. Community thought she'd catch pneumonia. Instead, her CRP inflammation numbers halved. Her local clan followed her into the Atlantic. By year's end, depression prescriptions in that small parish dropped 12%. Bridget's ritual healed her grief and rewrote communal chemistry. The wave does not end at shore, it becomes tide. So how exactly do you start if your life already feels overstuffed? Begin with what Watts called the backward law. Stop fighting the current, float on it. Tonight when teeth are brushed, sit on the edge of the bed, feet on floor. Ask, what does my body want right now? Maybe water, stretch, 5 slow breaths. Deliver one request, mark the calendar with a small dot. Tomorrow, honor 2 requests. Dots become constellation. Constellation guides navigation. No giant overhaul, just micro-compass resets. We must also address the communal mirror. Self-care in isolation can slip into self-absorption. Confucius taught Ren, humaneness, as relational virtue. He'd argue that caring for yourself widens capacity to enact Ren. Harvard researcher Sean Achor found caregivers who engaged in self-renewal practices delivered higher patient satisfaction scores than those who skipped breaks. The more you fill, the more you pour. Wave motif returns. Each healthy crest must recede or water stagnates. Recovery cycles, sleep, rest days, mental holidays are the ebb that primes next flow. Former Navy SEAL Commander Jocko Willink preaches discipline equals freedom. His Aero 430 Instagram watch shot looks austere, yet he logs 8 hours of sleep religiously. The discipline is recovery, freedom is mission readiness. Paradox, but only on paper. We're nearing the midpoint of our journey, which means it's time for a reflective checkpoint. Scan your body right now, jaw, shoulders, gut. Where is weight collecting? That's the wave gathering pressure. Gift it a micro exhale. Physics says a wave that never breaks becomes a wall. Let it crest, let it break, let foam dissolve. Then watch how the shore redraws itself. We'll pause here, wave suspended mid-curl. In the next episode, we'll dive into advanced tools, nutritional neurochemistry, digital sabbaticals, and the art of joyful discipline. For now, close the tab, step outside, feel air on skin for 60 seconds. That small act isn't a break from life. It is life expanding to fit the shape of who you're becoming. You closed the tab, stepped into the breeze, felt air graze your skin. That was exit velocity. Now we accelerate into orbit. Advanced self-care, the kind that reorganizes blood chemistry and rewrites the stories you tell about worth. Remember, no giant overhauls, only a series of waves cresting clean. One dose. Feed the neurochemical choir. Think of your brain as a choir with 4 lead vocalists: dopamine, serotonin, GABA, and acetylcholine. When you grab vending machine sugar at 3 p.m., dopamine belts a power ballad, but the others lose the key. Harmony collapses, crash follows. Nutrition neuroscience professor Lisa Mosconi shows that a breakfast of protein plus slow carbs, oats, berries, eggs, elevates tyrosine and tryptophan levels for 6 hours, raw material for dopamine and serotonin. Translation: by 4 p.m., you're still composing ideas instead of composing apology emails. Story ripple: Seattle product designer Nina felt exhausted chasing code freezes. She swapped pastry breakfasts for miso broth and boiled eggs. 2 weeks in, she noticed fewer bug-induced panics. Her manager asked whether she'd started meditating. Nina laughed. She merely changed the choir's sheet music. Nietzsche warned, all prejudices come from the intestines. Modern microbiome studies back him up. Gut bacteria manufacture 90% of your serotonin precursors. When you sip kombucha or fork kimchi, you aren't following a trend. You're hiring tiny luthiers to tune the strings of mood. Try it tonight. Prepare tomorrow's breakfast tray before bed. That single act removes morning friction and signals your future self. I'm on your side. To master the digital tide table. You wouldn't stare straight at the sun for hours, yet many of us stare into phone light until the brain thinks noon arrived at midnight. Melatonin stalls, cortisol flickers, REM degrades into static. The cure isn't abandoning tech, but scheduling tides. Start with the 2-shore rule: 1 hour after waking, 1 hour before sleeping, no screens. Alan Watts called such margins the blessed monotony in which new rhythms germinate. You're not missing out, you're tilling neural soil. Story ripple: Harrison, an LA sports editor, tested a weekend offline every quarter, powered down Friday sunset, rebooted Monday dawn. At first he paced like a caged wolf. By Sunday he found himself sketching surfboards, hobby dormant since college. 6 offline cycles later, he launched a side studio shaping custom boards for pro athletes. Opportunity often hides behind the noisy door we never close. Corporate evidence echoes Harrison. Volkswagen Germany deactivated after-hours email servers for 10 p.m., 7 a.m. 5 years in, absenteeism fell 14% and late-night system errors dropped by half. The tide table protects not just employees but the ship. Try it. Set your phone's do not disturb schedule right now, sunset to sunrise. If panic nips your heels, add an emergency bypass for a loved one. Security plus serenity. 3. Install joyful discipline. Self-care earned a reputation for softness, yet it thrives on structure, what drummer Questlove calls the pocket. Without temporal pockets, you'll watch priorities drift like sand. Borrow the Japanese Kotawari principle. Don't merely set tasks, set boundaries that honor them. A 45-minute writing block begins at 9 a.m., ends at 9:45 even if mid-sentence. Stopping on time trains the limbic system to trust that creativity will resume tomorrow, lowering anxiety and increasing flow probability. Story ripple. Valentina, a Buenos Aires architect, limited her design sprint to a strict Pomodoro timetable. The leftover 5-minute breaks she spent watering rooftop tomatoes. 6 months later, those tomatoes won a city sustainability award, and clients cited her garden photo series when choosing her firm. Discipline fathered both design and dirt under nails joy. Marcus Aurelius carved sunrise journaling into marble schedule despite plagues and border wars. His meditations weren't random, they were disciplined maintenance of inner citadel. Your calendar can do the same, stone tablets replaced by Google reminders. Try it. Allocate one non-negotiable pocket tomorrow. 15 minutes counts. Guard it like a royal audience with your future self. 4. Rewild the body, rehouse the mind. Indoor life starves proprioception and dislocates thought from muscle. Japanese researchers coined Shinrin-yoku, forest bathing, and proved that 2 hours under trees drops salivary cortisol 30%. But you don't need cedar groves. A city park or riverside path recalibrates the vestibular system just the same. Combine rewilding with philosopher Maurice Merleau-Ponty's insight. Consciousness is in the first place not a matter of I think, but of I can. When you climb a hill, skip stones, balance on a curb, you remind the psyche of capability beyond spreadsheets. Story ripple. Ahmed, a Cairo software trainer, felt claustrophobic after months of virtual classrooms. He joined a weekend desert trek group, 8 kilometers at dawn, silent march. On day 3, sand crests mirrored inner wave motifs. He reported fewer nightmares and gained clarity to quit a toxic contract. The body carried the mind out of the cage the mind had built. Try it. Identify your nearest pocket of sky, rooftop, balcony, trail. Schedule a weekly rewild loop, minimum 20 minutes, no headphones. The Earth's magnetic hum is your playlist. Heal by story, not statistics. Data convinces the cortex, stories rewrite the heart. That's why 12-step programs start with narrative confession, not pie charts. Psychologist Jonathan Adler, yes, name coincidence, found that patients who reframed life stories toward growth, even without event change, improved depressive symptoms by 11%. Write what Watts called a mythical autobiography, not a history of events, but of meanings. Notice where you abandoned yourself. Invent alternate chapters where you chose rest, water, sunlight. Neurology calls this memory reconsolidation. The soul calls it mercy. Story ripple. Layla, a Beirut schoolteacher, rewrote her war-torn adolescence as a hero's journey. In her retelling, the night bombs fell was the night she learned inventory, counting candles, rationing rice. She realized she'd become a logistics wizard. Self-care for her now includes praising that competence daily. Try it. Tonight, draft a half-page myth where your latest burnout episode becomes an oracle, pushing you toward gentler frontiers. Read it aloud. Your nervous system listens to your voice. 6. Cultivate social echo. Chambers of calm mirror. Neurons copy anxiety as faithfully as posture. A University of Colorado study showed that spending 10 minutes with a chronically stressed friend elevated participant cortisol 15%. Choose allies who echo calm. Ancient Stoics called this homonoia, mind-sharing toward virtue. But you can seed calm in circles that lack it. Practice Thich Nhat Hanh's half-smile during meetings. Heart rate synchrony subtly drops across the table. Acts of self-centered tranquility propagate communal stillness. Story ripple. Marta, head nurse in Lisbon, began silent 1-minute breathing drills at shift changes. Colleagues mocked it day 1. By week 4, they reminded her when she forgot. ER wait time complaints dropped 8%. Personal calm became institutional efficiency. Try it. Next group call, inhale 4 counts before answering. Let calm echo outward like sonar. 7. Design a seasonal off-ramp. Nature cycles, sap sleeps, rivers shrink, animals molt. Designate an annual week as your 0 week. No growth targets, no metrics. Psychologist Sabine Sonnentag's research shows prolonged detachment phases boost long-term creativity more than continuous moderate workload. Use 0 week for creative defocus. Sculpt clay badly, read foreign poetry, travel without itinerary. These acts stimulate default mode network, birthplace of insight. When you return, the wave delivers driftwood treasures. Story ripple. Omar, a Dubai marketing exec, spent his first 0 week volunteering at a sea turtle hatchery. The slow emergence of hatchlings mirrored his stalled product launch. Home again, he pivoted campaign pacing to matched micro milestones. Sales jumped 19%. Try it. Block calendar right now. Pick any 7-day stretch in the next year. Name it after a constellation. Guard it like an endangered species. The final surge, returning to shore. Pull back the camera. Water, wave, shore. When you hydrate at dawn, you swell the wave's crest. When you guard screen-free dusk, you let it recede clean. Nutrition, discipline pockets, rewild loops, narrative alchemy, social calm, seasonal drift, all strokes of the same cosmic tide brush. But philosophy insists on freedom. Jean-Paul Sartre wrote, "We are our choices." Each self-care act is a metaphysical vote for existence over mere survival. When you place the oxygen mask on yourself, you're not deserting duty, you're refusing nihilism. Final story ripple. Kaito, an 11-year-old in Osaka, got bullied for pausing baseball practice to sip water mindfully, a habit his Zen monk grandfather taught him. Months later, hottest summer on record, 2 teammates fainted. Doctors praised Kaito's hydration ritual. Bullies quit jeering. Coach adopted team water bells. A child's quiet boundary changed a microculture. So can yours. Now the final crest rolls beneath your board. Feel the lift? Choose one tool: breakfast tray, tide table, 15-minute pocket, sky loop, myth draft, half smile, 0 week. Write it on paper, stick it where tomorrow's eyes can't ignore. Then exhale. The wave will carry you. And as Watts whispered, once you realize you're the ocean too, caring for a single wave becomes caring for the whole impossible, magnificent sea.